Don in London, hello. My video is all about recovery from addiction to substance or behaviour. My substance of addiction was alcohol. My behaviour, trying to be perfect, and never so. Workaholic, relationshipaholic, you name it, any kind of holic or ism. And these days, gently, one day at a time, I keep sober. And if I keep sober, the rest of life can work as it may. So the gift, if you like, for me is being in recovery and being sober and learning how to live and find out who I am. And I reckon for a long time I had no clue who I was, what life was about, except what I thought others had in mind for me in terms of work, where I said, yes, give me a project, I'll do it, and another project, yes, I always said yes to, even more difficult aspects and elements of making life work in the work situation. Same in relationships. So these days, finding sobriety has been the gift, and after 35 years of drinking, taking the edge off, moving from convivial drinking into isolated, abject misery drinking, it was no wonder I needed some help. And the gift, if you like, there came a point, that moment of clarity, and it was, I reckon, a January morning where I realised life could just not get any worse. It could not get any worse, and no matter what I did, the writing was on the wall, and I realised if I tried on my own, it would just end. I would end up not waking up. And then I realised, well, if this is as bad as it can get, no matter what. I did get a bit worse, like homeless for several years. But in the end, somehow, I got into a place of recovery. So these days, I take recovery very seriously. It's the bedrock of my life. Understanding how I am emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Emotionally, how am I feeling? Why? What can I do? Better off, and most often in company, how are we feeling? Why? And what can we do? Which is having empathy and inclusion. And spiritual is simply knowing reality, knowing the truth of now. And as Gandhi said, God is truth, and God is love, and God works through people. I don't know if he said the last one, but I understand that. I understand that there is a higher power than me, and it's available to everybody on the planet. It's to be included, part of, see the truth of now, and get experience, strength and hope and wisdom from other people. And where do I get that most when it comes to addiction? For me, it's the Anonymous Fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I share the readings of AA on a daily basis, and I also share the statement of intent, what AA is there to do. I must say, I do not speak for AA, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people, and unique, authentic people do not need to be spoken for, and each person in AA finds their own path of sobriety and retains their uniqueness always. So we have this one similarity, that we're in recovery one day at a time. It doesn't matter if we're hours from a drink, we can only be an arm's length away, all of us. So life circumstances can impact greatly. So fellowship has taught me a new path in life, how to be a part of, how to be a sober person, how to understand my emotions, to get a grip, well, a loose grip, on what is reality, and to find out my identity. It grows on a daily basis. I thought I had an identity. Now I know it's always changing, and as I know more, what have I learned? I know less than I ever thought. So the AA statement of intent goes like this, and it is this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I went to a really good meeting last night at the Boltons. I can say I was there, but I can't say anybody else was there. But there were one or two people. And it was all about step 4, which is doing the fearless, or living and understanding step 4, which is about doing a complete inventory of our assets and liabilities, a fearless moral inventory, so that we can then understand where we're coming from and make a platform for where we're going to. That is, to live in the day soberly. And I use the literature of AA here on the videos. I'll start with this one, the Daily Reflections, and talk about the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, and a little bit about as Bill sees it as I go. So the Daily Reflections today, it's the ninth month, and in the literature, in this particular book, it's all about step 9, which is about making amends to other people and how we go about that. So from our fearless moral inventory in step 4 through to sharing it with somebody else, understanding our liabilities and our assets as humans, and then getting to a place of making a list of people we need to make amends to, just making the list and being willing. Then comes step 9, about the amends. So, a new life, September the 15th. Yes, there is a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. Life will mean something at last. Life is better without alcohol. AA and the presence of a higher power keeps me sober, but the grace of God, or good conscience as you choose to believe, does even better. It brings service into my life. Contact with the AA program teaches me a new and greater understanding of what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it does. But most importantly, it helps to show me who I am, an alcoholic who needs the constant experience of Alcoholics Anonymous, of the program, so that I may live a life given to me by a higher power, and that wisdom through other people and finding the truth of now is so key. And when we're making amends, I've been referring to this book over the last few days, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. You can actually read a step a day and a tradition day and get fully familiar. But the trouble with all these readings is they get better and improve as we go along, and our outlook changes and we understand more. And towards the end of the reading, or rather the step 9, page 86, it says here, many a razor-edged question can arise in other departments of life where this same principle is involved. Suppose, for instance, that we have drunk up a good chunk of the firm's money, whether by borrowing or on a heavily padded expense account. Suppose that this may continue to go undetected if we say nothing. Do we instantly confess our irregularities to the firm in the practical certainty that we will be fired and become unemployable? Are we going to be so rigidly righteous about making amends that we don't care what happens to the family and home? Or do we first consult those who are to be gravely affected? Do we lay the matter before our sponsor or spiritual advisor, earnestly asking God's help and guidance, meanwhile resolving to do the right thing when it becomes clear, cost what it may? And these are questions we ask ourselves. Of course, there is no pat answer which can fit all such dilemmas, but all of them do require a complete willingness to make amends as fast and as far as may be possible in a given set of conditions. And I'll leave it there in that book. And looking at As Bill Sees It for today, he talks about praying for others, and the power of prayer and meditation, whether you believe in God or whatever your higher power is, does have a place. And what it says, in essence, is, while praying sincerely, we may fall into temptation. We form ideas as to what we think God's will is for other people. We say to ourselves, this one ought to be cured of his fatal malady, or that one ought to be relieved of his emotional pain, and we pray for these specific things. And of course, we don't know what God's will is, or the higher power's will. And certainly our idea of what is good for other people might actually make us very conceited. So I need to be aware of time, and I've come to the end. So the serenity prayer for me to God or good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom simply to know the difference just for today.